We're on page Memtes, 5 lines from the bottom. Inevitably, we have to begin somewhat back to where we covered. The line begins with the word shemsag. And what we are now involved in is to identify in Yonim within the general principle of ohrot. Identify different levels in ohrot, which really is a big challenge, because ohrot by definition is representative of its source, of the etzem. And it continues to be, no matter where it is, it continues to be representing and connected to and pointing to the essence, as we discussed in great length. Nonetheless, and why are we looking for madregas in ohrot? We're looking at madregas in ohrot in order to explain the impact of tzimtzum. We said that the ohrot, the way it is in etzem, in ohrot soif, the ohrot of the esesphiris, even though there is esesphiris, nonetheless, because they are within the ohrot soif, they cannot have an impact on world. World cannot relate to that. And in order to impact world, it has to cause to a tzimtzum. And what is the effect of tzimtzum on ohrot? It remains ohrot no matter what you do with it. So for this we came with one explanation, that in ohrot also there is pnimius and chitzonius. As we already discussed, that the tzimtzum will then will be explained as having the effect of separating the pnimius from the chitzonius, or identifying more pnimius than chitzonius. This is the effect of tzimtzum. So we're not going to go into pnimius and chitzonius again, because this is something which we already covered. And then we have another approach of explaining the union of tzimtzum on ohrot, and that is looking at ohrot from a different angle. That ohrot is also represented by shem, name. The shadus, this is the shem havayah, this is the union from ohrot. And in shem havayah itself, even though this is shem etzem, in shem havayah itself there are different formats of the shem havayah. As I said, the nekudis, komets and pasach and chirik and so forth.
How did we go from talking about ohrot to talking about shem havayah? What was the
shem havayah is the shemus, the ohrot. Ohrot is represented by shem. Again, this we discussed also quite extensively. If you recall, we said we give a baby a name as soon as it's born, even though it has absolutely no activity and no significance. It will not respond. It does not yet occupy an active place in the world, and yet you give it a name, because the name represents its presence, the ohrot that it brings by its being, by its presence. Therefore, we're saying like this: within shem havayah itself, again, our focus is to identify different aspects in ohrot, in order to be able to explain what is the effect of tzimtzum on ohrot. And the principle that's been involved in right now is that ohrot is represented by shemos, the names, shem havayah. This is what brings down the ohrot. So now we're going to start 5 lines from the bottom and go right into it. V'yodua. It is known that Hashem is hein levushim al ha'oros. That names, these are garments for ohrot. What does that mean? Whereby, as a result of the name of the shemois, of the levushim, who is chabrus ha'oir imakei. This is what affects that it should be his chabrus, the connection of the oir imakei, the oir. In other words, oir in its purity cannot be impacting a keli. But if the oir is represented through a garment, a levush, then through that levush it can be correlated to a keli.
Is this mentioned to the name we're doing now related to the whole issue and development we made about Baruch and the letter Beis?
Ultimately, yes. Okay, in the meantime, we have to focus into where we are up to now. Sheyois is a levushim to ohrot. In order for ohr to be nitchaber with a keli, it has to be in a garment. In other words, the garment is of a different quality than a keli, than a receptacle. Garment is not a receptacle for the ohr. Garment is something which is intrinsically connected with the ohr and representative completely of ohr. And through the garment, the ohr can be established in the keli. So this is something which needs our attention. Just to give us a little bit an approach to this. As we always say, if you come into a room and there are tables and chairs, that indicates that there is a human abode. But the tables and chairs do not represent the human being. I mean, there's no human being there. There's only tables and chairs. But there are kelim that serve a human being, only exclusively a human being. Therefore, you know that there is a human being there. In contrast to a garment, the garment is not serve the human being. It's not inseparable. The human being wears the garment on him. And he acts and functions only when there is a garment on him. Without a garment, he cannot function. He cannot show himself without a garment. But when he has a garment, it is not that he's showing himself via some kind of a secondary step. He's showing himself to the garment. So garment and ohr have a direct interrelationship. In contrast to a keli, which takes the ohr into a different realm, like we explained yesterday or the day before about keli. Keli is in a totally dissociated level, separate materials. Shemos are called levush, which means that if you have the person, if you address the person through the name, you're not addressing the person via Keli. You're addressing the person directly, but you're using a garment through which you address the person himself. There's much more to be pointed out and so forth, but we leave it at that at this moment. Okay, now 4 lines on the bottom, in the middle of it. As for example, the name of the human being, the nira bechush, where we can observe with our senses, that the name, his name, this stands for his chayas, for his very life itself. It is not a secondary presence. It is not what's called a nickname, a means by which you can refer to him. The name is referring to him himself, not an extraneous reference. And this is something which we observe, we can see b'chush with our own senses and our own experience. Hu chayusa, this is the very life of the person. In other words, when we refer to a human being by name, we're not referring to an observable human being, what we see. With the name, we refer to something that we don't even see, the real essence of the life element of the person. It's not a reference to it, it's him. Him, his highest, what he stands for. Even though this highest comes into our body, and it can only affect the world through the body, but his presence in the world is not his body presence, but his highest presence. This is the significance of his being in the world, and his highest is there, not his body is there. Where do we see that Shmoi Hu Chayusa? For when we call a person by his name, afilu torud, even if he preoccupied, harehu nifnet tekef lekoyre yoshi. He responds immediately, instantaneously, without a secondary thought. Does that mean that I should respond? No, it is calling you himself. He responds to the one who calls him. Why? Because by name you're touching his very heights. And therefore, it's inevitable that he should respond. Just want to make a point for contemplation, because we almost invariably lose sight of the true reality of a human being, of life, and so forth. A human being and a living human being is one and the same thing. When we say I'm referring to a human being, I mean to the life of the human being, to the significance of his presence. Not to his appearance.
Not
to his appearance.
teaching that we talked about a baby as the parents have how the baby looks is like the fitzenius ha'er, and we're
All right, really. So we're talking about the chayas. The name refers to the chayas, not refers to in some kind of an elusive way, but a direct call. How do we give a name to something that we don't see? It's intangible. We see the body. In this body there is hidden someplace a chayas. How do we say we named that chayas? Before you get excited, what's the answer? That chayas is very obvious. Not by his action. Obviously I can move around. But by its impact of presence, which is oil.
The vitality is very apparent, very obvious. I'm just trying to catch what we just said.
Yeah, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
It has an impact. That's not oil, as you said yesterday, or the day before. It has a presence.
Here, impact is meaning presence, right? Not any activity.
No activity.
Right.
No activity. We can have a whole discussion about this.
Impact. Presence.
And that is the oil that we give and that we refer to by name. Yes, now
is this only a human phenomenon, or does it apply to everything that what has a title in this world? Lashon HaKodesh, of course, which provides.
Do again. Am I talking what?
The Galactic River says that everything in Lashon HaKodesh has a name, and this is how it receives highest. Every single object in this world. Are we speaking about purely human phenomena right now? Or are we speaking about this principle also applies, let's say, a table? We call it a table because of what it represents.
For the purposes of our motion over here, we're talking about human being. Now that you mentioned it, we have to go there. What is the name table? Alter Rebbe says, Shmoish Yikra B'Yim HaKodesh U'Chayusi. Even an inanimate object. Why do we give a name to table? Why do we give it a name? Because it carries the oil of the human being who created it. Why is it there? What's the table about? The table was built by a human being who represents himself through the table. In whatever form you call it, representing himself. The Torah says, "V'sal v'malish on mizbechi." Don't make steps to go up to the Mizbeach. And instead of going to Mizbeach, we made a kevish, a straight ramp. Why? What's the implication? Because steps cause you to spread apart your legs, whereby that leaves open your hidden parts. And the kevish, you can prevent that. So, what is the big insult over here? You're stepping up on the wooden steps. First you go was the pasuk in the Torah. The Mizbeach was designed differently because of this Mizbeach. And we're talking about a kevish made of wood. What kind of, who are you insulting over here? What's the answer? Everybody knows the answer? Did anybody quote? It has a value, it has a purpose. It has a function. That is its chayus. And that is the name that it carries. That's why it has a name. By human being, this is much more blatant, of course, much more significant. Because we said the human being actually responds to his name instantly, immediately, because you're touching him himself through calling his name. Even though you're only the ohr, but the ohr is directly connected to the action. It's inseparable. V'yodua, see at the end of the third line. V'yodua, it's known, shegam behis alfus g'doilo, rachmon al-Islam, that even in a deep faint, yicholim lahachzir, it is possible to bring him back al yedei kriyas Hashem, by calling the name. Because the name reaches into the depth of his chayas, and you can bring it back by calling his name. Ach gam zeh muvon. However, okay, we're not finished yet. Gam zeh muvon. This here too will be understood. Shehashem einay sichloi. That the name is not his seichel. The haina, which would mean nishmosoi, his neshama. We have to come back and discuss this. The reason I have to come back and discuss it is because sichloi, his seichel, there's such a confusion in our world of what seichel refers to. And we say, so saying that Hashem is not his seichel, what do you mean? So the Rebbe says, Hashem ain't a seichel, which is not his seichel. His seichel is much superior to the name. The Hainu Nishmosoi, which would mean that the seichel of his mean Nishmosoi, his very life, his neshama. The shem is not his neshama. The harei, for behold, koidem shabo hanshama beguf, before the neshama came into the body, eina tzricha l'shum shem. He did not need any name. There was a neshama. In its full impact and full significance of what the neshama is, but it didn't need a name. So the implication here is, as we're going to develop it, that the name is referring to the functional aspect of the neshama as the neshama is mislabish in the goof. But the neshama for itself, the real neshama, doesn't need a name. Very important for us to reflect on these couple of words. I'm starting from the end of the second line. Move on, Shehashem Ein Sichloi. That the name is not his seichel, Behind on Nishmosoi, which would mean his neshama. Does that stand well with us? Do we clearly correlate seichel with the neshama? He just tells you what the Rebbe means with the word seichel, what Chassidus means with the word seichel. Seichel is nishmosoi. What is neshama? What kind of entity is neshama? Neshama is a godly presence, it's a godly gift. Is a godly level of truth in the person. That's neshama. In other words, it is not a created entity, a world level presence. It's the truth, the godly truth itself. That's neshama. Life itself. Sichloi, Hainu Nishmosoi. What does that mean? Sichloi, Hainu Nishmosoi. So the Rambam says, the first principle is to know that there's a first being. What makes you know there's a first being? Do you have proof of that? This is before anything. The neshama knows that there's a first being. How does it know it? From itself. Not because, where do I come from if not from the first being? I and the first being are synonymous. What is the meaning of first being? First being means that there is truth to existence. It doesn't have to be brought forth. As Rambam says afterwards, Amit is him also, the truth of his presence. Seichel is not based on proof, on discovery. Seichel has no basis. Seichel is not a process. primary question. Is there significance to existence or not? It is the seichel that says, what do you mean? What kind of question is this? If you need proof of that, you're not using your seichel. This is very common, to abandon our seichel in our world over here. And let the world take over. But that's not what we're here for. We're not here to let the world take over. We're here to take over the world. We tell the world what it's about, not the world tells us what it's about. We bring life into the world. We bring reality into the world. Like we always repeat, the world without a human being is totally insignificant. Not worthy of being. Sichloi, Hainu Yishmos. See the impact of these simple words? How this is revolutionary in this stupid world that we live in. The very thought, recognition that there is significance to existence, to the world, significance to every individual's presence in the world, and accepting upon oneself the responsibility of his significance. This is seichel. And this is why we say, it's a simple activity. He's eating, big deal. Let him eat. The dog eats and he can eat. If a human being descends to the sense that he is doimo the kelev, he's abandoned his purpose in life. His presence, he's insulting his very being, his very neshama, his seichel. The name does not refer to sichloi. The name is a much lower level. Sichloi, Hainu Yishmos, this is not referred to by name. Even though this may have been implied by the fact that I say you call him by name so he wakes up, that's his neshama. That's not what we refer. That's what I'm just saying right now. Huh? The name is not his neshama. Even though the name calls the neshama back. So that's left to be discussed. This is where this came in. Okay, let's call it a day for this for now. Today is Wednesday. A reminder for the class you mentioned tonight.
Ah na na ma na na na